to Mayor Bennett's presentation here that starts up at noon. So we're not planning any regular business today, but appreciate everybody making time to come and listen to talk about our fine city. And I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about the ice storm, which was the topic of the breakout room. So Jessica, for you, people don't have to do anything in particular, right? They're just going to watch the screen.
Right. Yeah, if all goes well, the video will stream nicely, and I'll share it with everyone on my screen. You should be able to see it. That should be it.
Okay.
Let's see if it's starting yet.
Sue, I sent an email to Tim and Russ, giving them an update on what we discussed last night. So
Okay.
They have it for their board meeting.
I appreciate that, Chuck.
Sue, are you going to do any announcements at the end, like next week's program?
We'll get that out via email. I mean, I can certainly do that. Certainly do that. So.
Well, we'll get it up on the Facebook page.
Well, then, Renee,
tell-
do you want to do that because you're program chair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do that right now. All I wanted to do is say that, whoops, here we go. Never mind.
So I think we got a minute and 42. Jessica, are you able to mute the countdown? Go for it, Renee.
Oh, I just wanted to say next week's meeting is Sydney Schilling, who is the co-president of the Portland Rotaract Club and a member of the Big West Rotaract Directors, and also very active in Rotary's DEI initiatives. And she is going to talk to us about DEI Rotary style.
Very good.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sorry about the acronym.
There you go.
Hey, Sue, Russ here. Can I throw in a plug for Friday's huddle?
Yep.
So we're going to get together Friday at noon, actually under the dome at the amphitheater. Everybody in the club is invited. Come in from the north side of the parking lot and we can walk around and see this magnificent structure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Please try to make it. It's fantastic. Thanks, Russ.
Mhm.
And you're getting a message out too, or just did get a message out, right?
Yeah,
About-
an amphigram went out this morning.
Right. Okay. All righty. Any other quick announcements from folks?
Yes, Sue, would you like me to introduce one of your guests today?
Yes, please.
I'd like to introduce Jessica Bradley from the Department of Veterans Affairs. She is the new Women's Veterans Coordinator. And
Excellent.
she's working on the Women's Veterans Conference, which will be in May, and we invited her to get to know you all.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Allison, we have 30 seconds if you would like to introduce your guest today.
Thank you. Also introducing my guest, Vincenzo Maduri of Enlightened Theatrics. He sits on our board of directors. He's very interested in becoming a Rotarian. He has a great announcement. So I think I would just encourage anybody to visit Enlightened Theatrics website. And hopefully now you're all super curious about what that is. Thank you, President Sue.
So welcome, Vincenzo and Jessica. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you come back another day when we can see y'all and have a little more conversation. So
Thank you.
enjoy the presentation, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for the 2021 State of the City Address. My name is Sharon Pearson. I'm president of Salem City Club. By tradition, this event is presented by three prominent Salem organizations: Salem City Club, the Salem Rotary, and the Salem Chamber of Commerce. This year, it is City Club's turn to introduce the program. Salem City Club is in the midst of its 54th season, presenting programs that keep the community informed and encourage civic discourse among its participants. This season's programs are all virtual, held in Zoom webinars. Check out salemcityclub.com for more information. And now I am honored to introduce Mayor Chuck Bennett, who will deliver his 5th State of the City address.
Thank you, Sharon. And welcome to my 5th annual State of the City report to the community on the past year in Salem and taking a look forward into the next year. It's been a year for the history books. We're closing it with the worst weather event since the Columbus Day storm in the early 1960s. Thousands of us went without power for over a week, and some for nearly 2 weeks. This event has resulted in most of us understanding even better the need for both community and personal disaster preparation. I'm very hopeful that we will see an expanded role for our 19 neighborhood associations and the enormous value of the volunteer community emergency response teams. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the tremendous effort of our city's departments, particularly the ones of Public Works, Fire, and Police. Add to that the work of Salem Electric and PGE. I wish I had time to share with you the hundreds of incidents of help and kindness all of these emergency service providers gave us. Let me add to that the neighbors who cared enough to look in on neighbors to make sure they were okay and had whatever they needed during this episode. Dominating every aspect of our lives, it seems, has been the pandemic outbreak of COVID-19. Salem has been at the center of this, as Marion County has too often been one of the localities labeled an extreme risk by the state. There have been tremendous successes here, and I particularly want to highlight the work of Salem Health as they dealt with its possible impact on available hospital beds from day one just a year ago. Remember, flatten the curve was our objective. They did the work it took to meet the initial goal of not overwhelming our hospital. They essentially established our current vaccine center at the State Fairgrounds in cooperation with Marion County and the State Fair Council. Our business community has responded every time the state rules changed and continued to serve us over the past year. The challenge now will be to move forward and provide the assistance and resources all sectors of our economy will need to have a full recovery from the economic damage this illness and the response has caused. The year was further complicated by the Beachy Creek and Lions Head fires in the North Sandiam River watershed up in the canyon. The fire devastated the cities of Detroit and Gates, as well as miles of riverfront, hillside, and timberland along the Sandiam and the Little North Fork of the Sandiam rivers. Salem joined every community for miles in assisting with the fire and its aftermaths. There continues to be substantial concern about the impact of the fire on Salem's North Sandiam River water supply. Also of concern is a proposed sewer line for canyon communities that would also threaten the city's drinking water. And just so nothing got boring, Salem was the site of numerous protests and demonstrations relating to national events, issues, and the national election. The outcome has been a thorough review of police processes and procedures during large demonstration that should be released in the next several weeks. A major personnel change at this time was the long-anticipated retirement of Police Chief Jerry Moore. And then the hiring of his replacement, Trevor Womack from Stockton, California. In the midst of all this, the city held its election for mayor and 4 councilors. The outcome was the arrival of 4 new members of the city council, Councilors Gonzalez, Nordyke, Stapleton, and Trevor Phillips. The city really launched its first update of the city's comprehensive plan in over 40 years. The city completed its annual community report, which measures public satisfaction with city services and actions and reports the outstanding issues in our community. Over the past several years, homelessness and its impacts has replaced by far any other issue on the public's mind. No wonder. It's disturbing on a basic humanitarian level to see our fellow residents living in what can be degrading, unsafe, unsanitary, and deeply unfortunate conditions. The homeless condition invites a range of reactions, from scorn or fear to deeply held religious beliefs of personal responsibility to alleviate the situation. There's a deep hope that there is some simple or universal solution. What you learn as you get very close to this on a public policy level is that there isn't one thing in government that we can do to solve this problem. It's truly an all hands on deck, all resources concentrated at the local level on this situation. And the price tag is well beyond what we have seen invested into mental health, addiction, chronic health care, these needs, and the truly affordable housing for every income level. Oregon is the 7th leading state contributing to the overall homeless population, sitting in order behind Massachusetts, Washington, Texas, Florida, New York, and California. In 2019, Marion County saw a 20% jump in the number of reported homeless individuals, moving from 1,218 people to 1,422. Our homeless advocate groups expect the number to rise to between 1,500 and 1,800 homeless people in Marion County today. That number is too high. Based on interviews with people who are homeless in our region, many have untreated mental illness, addictions, and chronic health conditions worsened by long periods of homelessness. Also, some individuals have pre-existing barriers to housing, such as a criminal history, evictions, and a poor rental history. Providing shelter for someone who is experiencing chronic homelessness requires intensive case management and a network of community-based services. The city is currently working with our homeless service providers to increase shelter capacity, adding more permanent, affordable housing units and reducing barriers that lead to homelessness. We are dedicated to finding solutions through a community-wide coordinated approach. This means strengthening our crisis response systems as we advocate for state assistance for more supportive housing, as well as a navigation and sobering center. It means retooling our criminal justice involvement through a mobile crisis response structure that has trained professionals who can assist homeless individuals on the spot with direct access to addiction treatment, mental health counseling, and health services. We're asking again that the state support a sobering center and a navigation center to help homeless persons access needed programs of all types, including housing, mental health, and addiction services, and a variety of other programs to assist them out of their situation. In addition to our collaborative long-term planning agendas, Salem is involved in several current programs to help mitigate the homeless crisis. Those include additional security services for downtown. Last year, the Salem Housing Authority opened Redwood Crossings, 37 units of permanent supported housing. Salem Housing Authority owns and manages the property, contracting with Arches to support residents. Salem Health leases 6 of the housing units for transitional respite care for homeless individuals coming out of the hospital or with long-term illness. Salem Housing Authority is securing funding for Sequoia Crossings, which will add about 75 units of permanent supportive housing to Salem. It will own and manage the property, contracting with Arches to support residents. The Homeless Rental Assistance Program, HRAP, was launched in July 2017. The city, through the Salem Housing Authority, has committed $2.1 million to support the Homeless Rental Assistance Program. It links chronically homeless individuals to housing, food, furnishings, and social services. HRAP has housed more than 300 individuals. Since its inception, This, the largest Housing First program in Oregon, has had an 83% success rate moving homeless residents into permanent housing. The Salem Housing Authority operates a community partners property tax exemption program to encourage the inclusion of affordable units in market rate developments. This program provides a tax exemption and requires the Housing Authority be designated as general manager in a 5-year renewable partnership. It's an agreement to achieve the tax exemption. Salem Housing Authority does not become a partial owner or an active manager of the property. It's really interest from apartment developers and owners who make this happen, and any who are interested are welcome to let us know. The city has created a temporary homeless shelter operating today at the Oregon State Fairgrounds in partnership with the State Fair Council, Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency, Church at the Park, and other local homeless advocates. The temporary homeless shelter offers a place for folks to sleep and shower for at least 100 residents in a socially distanced 30,000 square foot arena. The city also provides financial and staff support for the Salem Warming Network, which houses homeless individuals during the coldest nights of our winter. We've worked to design overnight parking policies allowing for an innovative, safe vehicle parking program permitting homeless people to safely park and sleep in their vehicles in designated parking spaces in the Salem area. We've increased staff support for departments working on the homeless crisis in Salem, such as hiring a navigator at the Salem Housing Authority to work directly with our unsheltered population on the streets and in parks, learning how we can best support their needs and get them back on their feet. There now are added patrols with the Salem Police Department and Code Enforcement checking on health and welfare of homeless individuals in public spaces. We're trying to make sure these folks are at least checked on regularly. We are awarding more than $400,000 each year in grants to local nonprofits to provide emergency assistance and essential services to Salem residents and families in need. We're beginning a new permanent supportive housing units in structured small communities. You'll hear more about that, I think, over the next several weeks. The city also is providing short-term financial assistance with City of Salem utility bills for households experiencing financial hardships. We're offering tax incentives to developers who will build affordable housing in our area. And we're adapting building standards for single-family property owners to add additional units on their property, such as a basement apartment or converting a single-family home into a duplex. We also are providing more than 3,000 Salem households with affordable rent through our Salem Housing Authority. That's 3,000 people who could be potentially homeless in this community. We're pouring time and resources into understanding our region's growing homeless population, identifying subgroups, including youth, families, and older adults who need our support. We're very active in the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance, which is vice-chaired by our council president, Chris Hoy. Ultimately, we're setting goals and adapting policies to meet a series of goals. We need to reduce the need for sheltering in unsuitable locations. That would include our city parks. Reduce the average time a person is homeless. We're talking to people who've been on the streets for 10 or 15, 20 years. Reduce the number of homeless individuals in our community. Just help more people get into housing. Increase adult employment and the percentage of persons who become sheltered. It's been a banner year for our police department. As I mentioned, Jerry Moore closed out his more than 40-year career in Salem with 15 years as chief. The department moved into its new police center on Division Street and welcomed new chief Trevor Womack. Along with these changes, police officers and leadership dealt with an unprecedented number of demonstrations, protests, marches, and riots. Residents, parks, neighborhoods, businesses, and traffic were impacted, and everyday life in Salem was regularly being disrupted. The police had the unenviable job of balancing the competing interests of the public's safety and individual constitutional rights. Our city has gotten through this period. In other communities, it caused real wreckage. We've seen it in other towns in Oregon and nationally. We did it successfully because our police department did an outstanding job. They set the tone by communicating with organizers and the community about our expectations for keeping the community safe. They clearly stated the goals and objectives to prevent and stop violence and damage to public and private buildings, and then followed through on what they said. And the department worked closely with county, state, and federal partners to prepare and safeguard our city. Salem leaders need to move beyond doing more with less. Those approaches are not working well, whether it is homelessness, individual and mental health crises, or crime. Demands on our police are increasing, but the number of officers to deal with has not. In 20 years, the city has grown by more than 30,000 residents, yet the number of officers has only increased by 13 during that same period. There is only about one officer for every 1,000 residents, a statistic well off the national average. There's an increasing demand due to serious crimes. Officers are stretched thin, and that impacts the levels of police service this community needs and deserves. Our Public Works Department delivers many of the core services residents expect of their city: water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, parks, stormwater management, street trees. Construction project management and Center 50 Plus, which is Salem Senior Center, are also on their to-do list. The department was recognized nationally with the American Public Works Association Accreditation Award. Salem is one of only 161 departments to be recognized as compliant with nearly 500 nationally recognized best management practices in each of its areas of primary responsibility. The drinking water section has launched significant programs to improve drinking water resiliency and to make sure projects are there to back that up. Topping the list is the ozone water treatment system at Guerin Island. Progress on the new Frank Malden ozone water treatment system. By the way, Frank Malden was the head of Public Works a number of years ago and just died recently. Very proud to name this after him. Is proceeding at a fast pace at the Guerin Island water treatment facility. Ozone treatment was chosen as the preferred water treatment process because of its ability to effectively treat algal toxins and other contaminants. You remember the algal bloom. Algal toxin levels have increased in the city's watershed, as evidenced by the impacts to the city's water supply in 2018. The city has invested over $45 million in the ozone system, and it is scheduled to be in operation early this summer. The city also is investing in a new groundwater well at the Guerin Island Water Treatment Facility. It is expected to deliver up to 10 million gallons per day. This new well will be used to augment peak summer water demand and also supply water if the North Sandium River water is not suitable for use due to turbidity, drought, or an emergency spill, and that could occur in this watershed. This $14.5 million project is expected to be completed in the spring of 2022. We are investing $25 million to reconstruct one of our aging sand filters at Guerin Island. The state of Oregon will be investing $20 million in this facility, and we're excited to start design on the project this summer. The work will be completed in 2023. We also are spending another $12 million to improve our aquifer storage and recovery facilities in South Salem. We can store over 750 million gallons of water in the underground aquifer, and we're making improvements to our water treatment system at the aquifer and the adjacent pipe systems to make it useful. This aquifer is used primarily during the summer months to meet peak water demands, but it also adds resiliency to our water system. These improvements are scheduled to be completed later this year. All of these major projects have been supported by a substantial investment from the state and from local ratepayer funds. Salem's new biogas cogeneration facility at Willow Lake went online this past year and is producing renewable energy from the byproducts of wastewater treatment. This state-of-the-art facility would not have been possible without the generous support from the Energy Trust of Oregon, Oregon Department of Energy, and customers participating in Portland General Electric's Green Future program. This facility is expected to save the city more than $300,000 a year in average annual energy costs and keep tons of pollution-causing gases out of our atmosphere every year. And now Salem residents can access daily updates from the facility on the electricity production and carbon offsets from the City of Salem website. A $25 million project to replace the existing aging Public Works Administration buildings at the Shops Complex got underway with the selection of a design-build team in December. The team is Howard S. Wright Construction and Hacker Architects, who are also completing the library project. They've begun preliminary programming and design work on the new administration building. The preliminary site work is expected to begin later this year, and construction of the new operations building located off 23rd Street Southeast will begin early in 2022. The new building will provide a modern, seismically resistant headquarters for public works operations with improved public parking and a lobby for better access to services. This project is the start of a multi-phase master plan for redevelopment of the Shops Complex that will replace buildings that are well beyond their useful life with modern, flexible work and storage spaces. The city's Safer Pedestrian Crossing program prioritized safety for people walking to schools, work, parks, and other destinations. In 2020, the first full year the program was available, the city received over 100 requests for improved pedestrian crossings. The city actually made improvements only to 6 pedestrian crossings in 2020. More than 10 will be added and constructed in the next 5 years. We hope to find funds to continue to support this project at a more rapid pace. The Public Works Department also oversees a number of other programs, including parks, Center 50 Plus, our senior center, street trees, and other major construction projects. The City of Salem is proud to be one of only 17 cities in the country to have been a charter participant in the Arbor Day Foundation's Tree City USA program. In 2021, we celebrate 45 consecutive years of participation in that program. Salem is also a sterling city, having received more than 10 Arbor Day Foundation Growth Awards in recognition of our innovative approach to our urban trees and the level of participation in our various programs. Our contracts with nonprofits and contractors such as Friends of Trees and Treecology continue to expand our planning capacity while also providing outreach, education, and volunteer opportunities. In 2020, Friends of Trees staff and volunteers planted 182 large stock trees. This planting work was accomplished thanks to nearly 1,000 volunteer hours from 275 volunteers. In 2020, Friends of Trees planted an additional 2,120 small stock trees, shrubs, and smaller plants in Salem parks and natural areas. In 2021, the city forester will lead the way in cataloging and replacing the hundreds of trees lost in this ice storm we just experienced. Work in this area will continue for several months. We'll have a full report on this coming to council over the next several months. In early 2020, the city began working on a climate action plan. A 41-person task force was appointed and includes representation from a broad range of community interests and groups. The Climate Action Plan is almost halfway through the planning process, and it's on schedule to come before council in December. In October, council set 2 climate action goals. 1, reduce greenhouse gas emissions 50% by 2035, and 2nd, to become carbon neutral by 2050. You can participate in this process online. As a result of the age-friendly work, the Center 50 Plus Advisory Commission, in cooperation with AARP, had been spearheading for the last 2 years. Center 50 Plus has already established strong partnerships, created a robust volunteer workforce, and have been addressing senior isolation and loneliness issues. This advanced work allowed the center to pivot quickly from a facility driven by face-to-face models to a virtual front porch delivery of services during the pandemic. It served more seniors and helped alleviate some of the mental, physical, and emotional impacts that occurred during the pandemic and the need for them to remain safely at home. 250 seniors received a food and care box delivered by 50 different volunteers. More than 400 seniors connected to the center virtually each week for health and lifelong learning, and over 2,000 seniors received a friendly call or an encouraging letter from a center volunteer. The WOW, Wellness on Wheels van, has offered pop-up and socially distanced support services and a front porch delivery for hundreds of seniors each month, a program that will continue to support Salem's homebound seniors well beyond the pandemic. The Age Friendly Project was initiated in my State of the City announcement 2 years ago and has developed a strategic plan to meet the range of needs seniors have, including health care, transportation, and housing. It will guide city policies for several years to meet the challenges we are facing as our city residents grow older. The Salem Public Library went through a lot of change in 2020. The temporary relocation for the seismic project was completed in February 2020. A month later, COVID hit, and it became apparent that for patron and staff safety, library services couldn't continue to look the same. The small size of the temporary library location added to the safety constraints for Salem Public Library to offer any on-site services. After a brief full closure with only virtual help available, the library was able to offer contactless curbside service that has been scaled according to the state risk categories for Marion and Polk counties. While contactless curbside helps get physical materials to patrons, it isn't the only way to use the library for books, movies, and more. E-content offerings and use went way up in 2020. Record new patrons signed up for the online cloud library. 1,920 in 2020, up from 1,131 in 2019, and it's just growing as we talk here. Items checked out from the cloud library are more than doubled in 2020. 63,812 checkouts in 2020, up from 27,876 in 2019. For avid readers, Salem Public Library started Book Match in October 2020. With this service, library staff curates a personalized list just for you based on your preferences. Staff will even place holds for you if you'd like. Just fill out the Book Match survey and staff will get back to you within 3 business days with some really exciting new reading ideas. From October 2020 to the beginning of February 2021, staff has helped 92 Book Match users find their perfect reads. Sign up today. Put these people back to work. The library also pivoted to virtual programs, including a library island on Animal Crossing, having open and tough conversations with Exploring Together series, and virtual story times made possible by publishers lifting restrictions and allowing for books to be read aloud and recorded. Staff are also answering questions via email, chat, and phone for patrons. There are two main outreach initiatives that Salem Public Library was able to accomplish during the pandemic. The first was an early literacy outreach started in fall 2020 using leftover prize bags and books left from the 2020 Summer Reading Club. Library staff compiled the kits on request for delivery to community organizations that already have systems in place for delivering essentials such as food, clothing, educational materials, and other items. The library has connected with more than 15 partner organizations requesting kit delivery, including Head Start, Mano a Mano, Family Building Blocks, Salem Kaiser Teen Parent Education Program, food pantries, and free clinics. Each kit contains a backpack, 2 to 3 paperback books, an activity booklet with literacy-based activities, literacy tips for parents, and information about online library services and the library curbside services. Ready-to-read funds were used to purchase the books and print materials for the early literacy kits. While the program has paused due to the extreme risk categorization in Marion and Polk counties, there may be opportunity to restart it in a lower risk category and do some one-off events. In the 2 months the program was active in 2020, 737 kits were delivered to partners. Operation Bookshelf, our senior outreach program in partnership with Assistance League of Salem and Kaiser, had to pivot due to the high risk of patrons served. Operation Front Porch was born, along with an effort to conduct wellness phone calls to homebound individuals enrolled in the program. Operation Front Porch aims to deliver bags to front doorsteps and desks contact-free. The program also delivers crates filled with books to senior living centers. Special projects like cheerful gift bags decorated by tab members and handwritten holiday cards have really accompanied the delivery efforts. 2,178 library items were delivered to individuals and facilities. 80 people are currently enrolled in the program. Volunteers gave 60 hours to make these contact-free deliveries. The city has a Blight to Bright program, and it was initially intended to provide a secure source of funds to deal with city abatements by the code compliance section. This is that house in your neighborhood that's been abandoned for a few years and is starting to fall apart, and you're wondering, will that ever go away? Bright to Bright was set up. Prior to this, staff would have to ask to appear at the council to ask for money to abate the blight, meaning dangerous buildings and drug labs. The money for the Bright to Bright Fund actually comes from Salem property owners who are in violation and have been served with civil penalties. Some of these people pay the penalties. Some don't. Those who don't pay will have city liens placed on their property. These liens accrue interest and are paid off to the city when the property sells. There are enough outstanding liens and current penalties to provide enough of an irregular income to keep the fund solvent for the future, and it's all money from violations, not from the regular general fund budget. While we started the program in earnest in 2019, opportunities for abatements have been limited till this time. We also have committed use of the money to make things bright. We're helping neighborhood associations obtain required insurance for community events, or other possible expenses have been approved. We also want to support youth development activities and planning outreach efforts when possible. To date, Blight to Bright funds have been used for the following projects. In 2019, funds were used to pursue the successful demolition of a chronically damaged house at 1525 Lee Street Southeast. Since the demolition, the lot has been redeveloped by private investors. Our cost was approximately $4,000. In 2019, funds were also dedicated to demolition of impounded RVs. Costs to lawfully dispose of an RV are prohibitive, and these RVs end up reappearing in the community for us to deal with again. At this time, $10,000 has been dedicated to RV demolition in partnership with Salem Police. During the fall of 2019, when the humanitarian needs of the homeless population camping around the Arches facility were at hazardous levels, some Blight to Bright funds were used to supply emergency portable restrooms as well as hand washing stations. These expenses were about $5,000. In March, Blight to Bright funds were used to create the first of the vehicle camping locations in partnership with Salem Leadership Foundation. They were supported for the entire second quarter of 2020. Funds from other sources have continued and expanded the program. The Bright to Bright expense to initiate the program was about $25,000. The City Planning Department launched our Salem Project aimed at developing Salem's new vision for future growth and development. It has been advancing after more than a year and with half of the community outreach completed. This vision lays the foundation for updating our comprehensive plan by the end of this year. It will guide how Salem grows for decades to come and help us meet many of our challenges ahead. The city is expected to add 30,000 new residents over the next 20 years. And this plan will help us meet the tremendous housing and economic growth requirements that much growth demands. No project underway today will have more impact on the next generation of residents and the quality of life they will enjoy than the Our Salem Project. Every part of Salem will be affected by this planning and zoning process as it updates our 40-year-old comprehensive plan and its goals for the future, which is our present. We already face serious challenges meeting our housing crisis, including multifamily housing. As our population grows, we know we need more multifamily housing, more apartments, more cottages, more duplexes, quads, triplexes. To help meet that need, we've been making it easier to build multifamily housing in Salem. Last year, the council adopted a complete overhaul of our regulations and approval processes for multifamily housing. In 2020, we approved building permits for more than 770 multifamily housing units. That's more units than in any year going back to at least 2012. The city continues to prioritize housing development through code improvements, expanded zoning opportunities, and financial incentives. Later this year, the city will tackle code amendments to permit missing middle housing, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, townhouses across the city. That's required under new state laws. Historic preservation has been a major goal in Salem. As we try to protect what makes Salem special and still meet future needs, we have been doing this important work. In 2020, we completed our work on our historic code amendments and historic preservation plan update, aligning our codes and processes with our goals for historic preservation. The plan identifies projects for the next 10 years that will strengthen our preservation program and ensure we protect our history. The city continues to provide financial support to homeowners of historic houses through our grant program and are now looking forward to establishing a new Preservation Green Grant It's a new fund to assist historic property owners with projects to improve the sustainability and energy efficiency of their historic properties. The city has continued also to strengthen our relationships with the federally recognized tribes that have deep historic roots in Salem. This past year, I signed memoranda of understanding with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Silettes. In 2021, we look forward to negotiating a third agreement with the Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs. These agreements recognize the important place the tribes have had in our history and how we will cooperatively deal with issues of growth and development in the future. In 2020, despite the pandemic, the city completed work on our first private-public archaeology project. It was at the Jason Lee House site. The effort helps us better understand the history of our city and its founders. The past year has shown us again how vital our city fire and emergency services are to our community. Response times here remain a major issue as we look forward to population growth and aging. Our fire services are also our first responders in health emergencies. The last successful bond for fire trucks was in November of 2006. The current fleet of fire trucks and other equipment has served us well for 15 years, but it's time to begin the work it will take to reinvest in our fire department's trucks and equipment. The Emergency Operations Center has been activated now for nearly a year due to COVID-19. It's our single longest activation on record. Let's hope it remains the single longest activation on record. We will continue to remain activated until we are through this pandemic. City employees across all departments are part of this activation, including fire, police, management, legal, human resources, public works, community development, and finance. The EOC commander is Deputy Chief Ree Godfrey. His team has done an exceptional job of ensuring the safe and orderly operations of the city, and that they continued during the pandemic. The city operates a regional 911 emergency dispatch center serving the city of Salem and many communities in Marion, Polk, and Lincoln counties. We operate the center under the name Willamette Valley Communication Center. And at the beginning of the year, we moved it under the Salem Fire Department. Our 911 center staff is currently working on the replacement of the core computer system, which tracks all the 911 call information, recommends the appropriate police, fire, or ambulance services, and tracks all the field units and their status. The system also includes a mobile data application that will go in each police car and fire apparatus to be used as part of the communication system, and information sharing that goes on between the 911 center and field personnel. This project is in the evaluation phase, and we expect to have a new system selected by midsummer. It will then take roughly a year to implement. This project will cost about $3.5 million and will serve the 911 center for the next decade or more. Funding comes from participating agencies and the 911 tax. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Information Technology Department, our IT department at City Hall, successfully led the city in a switch to virtual services. It's with minimal interruption, too, that they did this. City staff adapted quickly into a remote work environment and embraced the new service delivery model. This has resulted in efficiencies and improved collaboration within all of our city departments. The IT department continues to innovate and transition to e-government solutions to bring more community-facing services online. These solutions use information and communication technologies to serve the public. Solutions recently deployed include enhancement to e-permits, a digital public records request solution, and the open data website for the facilitation of data sharing among the public and government agency. The city's vision is to continue to improve digital services and provide technology solutions that enhance the residents' experience. The city's maintained a favorable bond rating during the past year on its current $60 million utility revenue bond issue. These funds will finance projects that we talked about earlier dealing with water treatment and a supplemental water supply. The Urban Renewal Agency also recently completed a $14.4 million annual de jure borrowing that allows it to access funds to make public investments in designated geographic areas to remove blight, to improve property values, and to leverage private investment. These public investments spur redevelopment in areas where it might not otherwise occur. During the COVID pandemic, the municipal court has continued and expanded operations to the public for resolving parking and traffic violations and misdemeanor crimes. The court is allowing defendants with parking or traffic violations to appear and enter a plea by telephone, email, fax, or correspondence. Defendants that enter a plea of not guilty have the option of having a trial by affidavit or being placed on a wait list for in-person appearances. The court is currently exploring the opportunity of holding violation trials by video conferencing. The City of Salem has published its comprehensive annual financial report, which for those of you interested in public finance is probably the most interesting report you'll find. It's for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, and received an unmodified opinion from its auditors. That unmodified opinion is good news. This opinion indicates that the basic financial statements present fairly in all material aspects the position of the city and the results of operations of the various funds and units, and it's all in conformity with generally accepted accounting practices. The city is currently being reviewed consideration for a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. They've received this award 30 times in the past several years. In 2020, the city received $7.2 million in coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security, the CARES Act. You hear about it on national TV. These are reimbursements for its response to the COVID pandemic. It also received $29,600 of employer-paid Social Security from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. The receipt of these funds was made possible by the city's prompt response to the crisis. I can tell you that they turned around receipts and information faster than I think any city in the state and any unit of government in the state. And finally, I'd like to discuss the city's economic activities and highlight our continued commitment to our fundamental success in growing and diversifying our economy. Permit activity in Salem has remained steady since last March. According to December 2020 report on city building permit data, 160 permits were issued that month, valued at more than $38 million. From July to December, there were 1,114 permits issued, valued at more than $330 million. Compare this to the same period in 2019. There were more permits, 1,183, but they were valued at less, at $215 million. We are seeing fewer, more valuable projects being built. The city continues to permit new multifamily housing units at a steady pace. From July to December, there were 489 new apartment units permitted. That is an increase from 409 units that were permitted during the same time period the previous year. There have been 77 accessory dwelling units permitted since code changes allowed for their construction in 2017. These are those tiny house in the backyard, sometimes called mother-in-law units. That's what we've been interested in those. Since March 2020, some businesses have closed, but several has opened as well. Urban renewal grants continue to encourage private investment in our downtown. Several new businesses have opened in downtown since March 2020, including La Familia Cider, Fork 40 Food Hall, Bentley's Coffee, Ernie and Gray, Salem on the Edge Art Gallery, the Sun Bear Den Plant Shop, Flowers in the Alley, and Cakes Skateboard Shop. The new planned hotel downtown on the former Marion Auto Garage is in the permitting phase, and construction is expected to start in early 2021. The 146 micro-unit apartments on the former McMahon site is expected to be completed in early 2021. Apartment pre-leasing is exceeding the owner's expectations. So if you want to live downtown, you better get down there and get your name on the list. Completion of Union Gospel Mission's new facility is expected in spring 2021, and relocation to the new facility will occur in the summer of 2021, just a few months away. The city plans to announce a request for proposals seeking development interest on the UGM, the Union Gospel Mission block, later this spring and early summer. Western Oregon is completing improvements to the Vic building downtown, which they expect to complete before the end of 2021. Virtual classes are expected to continue into 2021. The new Riverfront Amphitheater, the Jerry Frank Rotary Amphitheater, is expected to be completed this summer. Last summer, the city created the Summer Streets program to expand outdoor seating options for downtown eating and drinking establishments. In October, the city launched a streamlined process obtaining temporary outdoor coverings or tents to expand customer seating through the winter. Tents larger than 400 feet require a patio covering permit, and less typically don't require a permit under this new program. Instead, it's just a certificate that illustrates the need for safety and access requirements. This is intended to make it easier for businesses to install temporary outdoor tents this winter. I believe those will remain through the summer, frankly. I think they've proven to be very popular. The city also created a grant program to help businesses purchase temporary outdoor dining tents and heaters to maintain and expand customer seating through the winter. The city dispersed more than $250,000 to 55 businesses for this program. The State Street two-way project conversion was completed between Church and Liberty Streets, which takes it now all the way from the river to that. It's increasing opportunity for use of the downtown street system, and real proud of that one. The city riverfront downtown urban renewal area is uniquely positioned to support the redevelopment of the J.C. Penney building and other large vacant buildings downtown. We funded studies to help evaluate the feasibility of incorporating housing into these vacant spaces, including adding floors to existing structures. This information can assist prospective property buyers with their due diligence and with the sale and redevelopment of these properties. The city also has urban renewal grant programs to assist with capital improvements. The city has grant and loan programs in 3 urban renewal areas, including North Gateway, West Salem, and downtown. Since January, the city has approved $3.2 million in grants for projects totaling $24 million in the riverfront, downtown, West Salem, and North Gate urban renewal areas. Last year, the Urban Renewal Agency approved creating a new single property tax increment district on a portion of the former North Campus of the Oregon State Hospital to incentivize development of 246 new apartments, including 36 units for individuals earning an average of 60% of the area's median income. The agency will rebate to the property owner up to 97% of the property taxes. This is a really new way of getting this kind of housing built. It's been very difficult to get affordable housing built. We would like to replicate this concept in other areas of the city, and we'll be looking around for other properties like we saw at the State Hospital in order to create these new affordable units. There are several new and existing industrial businesses making investments in Salem. Industrial activity remains very strong along the West Coast and in Salem. At the Mill Creek Corporate Center, the city and state are working in partnership to support expansion of public infrastructure to meet development needs. Nearby at the Salem Business Campus off Gaffin Road, the city is working with several small businesses interested in locating at the property. Recall, this is the old Panasonic or Sanyo site. The city has 19 of 30 available acres under contract or in negotiation for purchase. We've seen groundbreakings on speculative commercial development in the Fairview Industrial Park, and now construction's underway there. We expect to have 12 tenants arriving soon into that portion of the city's urban activities over the economic activities over there. The city continues to identify funding to support area businesses and nonprofits impacted by COVID. Thus far, the city has committed over $500,000 to more than 120 small businesses and nonprofits. This includes about $100,000 in Business Oregon grant funding that the city had applied for. The city helps businesses apply for additional grants offered through the county, whether it's Marion or Polk, a Willamette Workforce Partnership, and the state of Oregon. The city coordinated with Business Oregon and the Salem Chamber in December to obtain about $40,000 in personal protective equipment, PPEs, that is available at no cost to small businesses in Salem. The PPEs were funded through the CARES Act. The Chamber is coordinating the pickup PPE, which will begin the week of January 11th and will continue until they're fully dispersed. Thus far, more than 110 businesses have accessed these free personal protective equipment opportunities. Economic development staff have been communicating with about 450 small businesses and sharing regular updates on funding and offering technical assistance. Urban Renewal Agency grants supporting or assisting a range of businesses include Ochoa Quesaria's expansion on Portland Road and supported construction of new development at Wallace and Glen Creek Road. West Salem Machines, new equipment, and a new sports rehab facility, Sicha Restaurant and Brewing, Union Gospel Mission's new location, and many more. Ochoa Quesaria completed their facility in late 2020 and hopes to reopen their retail operation selling yogurt, quesadillas, ice cream, and cheese when the state's COVID guidance allows. The city, SEDCOR, and other area partners continue to expand programming and mentorship for area entrepreneurs, including several virtual events and informational sessions since March. A new fund for startups, the Mid-Valley Angel Fund, was established to assist. A competition was launched this spring to allow area startups to compete for up to $50,000 in investment from the fund. One local startup, Hoss Sauce, was awarded funding through this program to help expand inventory and marketing. You can now find it on grocery shelves here in town. Another round of funding from local and regional investors will be raised this year to help additional startups. In all, in every area, Salem has continued to be the progressive, business-friendly community that has made it a success. As conditions change around COVID, all indications are that we will have a major bounce in our employment and economic health. As we move ahead, we will continue to be a city leaning forward into the future. We will change, but our bottom line values will remain intact. I pledge to each of you that our city government is going to be part of a future we can all be proud of and prosper in. Thank you.